So basically, if you don't know, Software Engineering Club is it's a subgroup of ACM. What we do is we fulfill that part of providing workshops and teaching you guys how to actually develop applications. So when you go to hackathons, or if you're doing these open source projects, or you're doing whatever you want to do, you're going to be able to make iOS apps, stuff like that, and in this case, a Python Reddit API. Why?
So I mean, client uses the Reddit's API, but like Takashi's saying, like you're gonna learn stuff that you won't learn in your classes. Like if you've heard these terms before, but like you don't really know what they are because they're kind of like buzzy words and stuff. Like if you never like fiddled around with any of these technologies, we can introduce you to them. And like it's cool because if you're trying to get like a part-time job doing development work or an internship or anything, like these are technologies and concepts that you're going to be using on the job. So having like experience will allow you to get interviews and get jobs much easier, and will allow you to be like very prepared on the job, having experience with this kind of stuff. And like this is stuff like you don't see in classes at all until maybe you get like into your tech electives, or maybe you'll take software engineering, that class. But other than that, like you don't really learn them when you're a freshman or a sophomore. So a really cool opportunity to learn these kind of concepts and things.
So last semester we had a pretty great semester. We launched a bunch of tutorials. We also had we did our first semester completely online. So if y'all haven't, you can check out all the tutorials and all the sessions that we did last year. We recorded using that microphone, and we just do screen recording. You can check us out at USEC at YouTube.
Yeah.
And
something like that.
Yeah, you'll be able to, it's on our Facebook page. You'll be able to find all the tutorials online. You can follow along. We have a sick AngularJS tutorial. We also had we worked with Ben Duguid and also with Wixie to have this awesome Meteor.js tutorial. He's going to be probably coming back this semester at some time to give another tutorial similar to that because it was an awesome time. We also had an Android tutorial with John Harrison. He's one of our officers for our group. And yeah, that was another awesome time. Also, I think that tutorial is online.
I'm not sure.
It is online. You'll be able to find that tutorial online. And also, we had our first meeting of last semester, which was our HTML and CSS tutorial, where we basically learned how to do a quick bootstrap personal website. So yeah, so a lot of awesome stuff happened last semester, but this semester we're really looking into some growth. So this semester, our current leadership, we have our president, Joshua Kegley. He's not here right now. Vice president, yours truly. I'm Takashi Wicks. Nice to meet you. We also have another one of our officers, Sergio.
Hello, guys.
And then we have another officer, John Harrison. Now, these are the positions that we've had for this semester. And this semester, it has been a bit difficult planning, as you might have asked the month of planning event. So we're trying to expand our leadership position. So this is a great time for you guys to get involved with Software Engineering Club and ACM. So we need help, a lot of help. So please get involved. So basically we're going to be doing the elections process again for president, vice president, and secretary and treasurer, which were two positions we didn't have this year. So basically the roles differ per, but they're similar to regular clubs. President does a lot of the planning. They're going to be working with the vice president and the officer team to basically delegate work between these roles to make sure that everything goes really swimmingly for the Software Engineering Club.
And so let me talk about, so the chair positions basically, like we want to have like more help with doing random tasks for the club, right? So a web developer, our website's kind of lacking right now and a little bit outdated. So we want to have like someone specifically maintaining the website, keeping it updated, making it look pretty, all that nice stuff. People to talk to companies, to have companies like maybe give little workshops and information sessions and networking events and things like that. And event planners to specifically like think forward in the semester and like plan out what tutorials and workshops are going to happen and things like that. Also someone to handle like the YouTube channel and videos and chopping up the clips and stuff like that. Because I mean it's not that hard to do all that stuff, but having one sole person dedicated to that is definitely a lot of help to the rest of the officer team so they don't have to worry about it. And also fundraising, another thing that just to raise money for the club and stuff like that. But with the chair positions, that's going to be a little bit of a separate process than the leadership officer position. So as Takashi said, the officer positions, they're going to be elections, and the chair positions are going to have applications. So you're going to apply to do those. But yeah, like it's not like the chair positions aren't like lesser opportunities than the officer positions. Like you're still like having a definite role in the club, and it'll be like a really good role to have on your resume and to like talk about to companies and stuff like that. Being involved with a software related organization on campus, which is a really good opportunity. So go ahead.
All right. So so the application process will be different. We're setting that up a bit later. But first, we're going to be working on our elections process. That's going to be happening March 9th. So make sure to be at that meeting if you want to run for a role. But basically, in preparation for that, by March 1st, we're going to be finishing our application process. We're going to need you to submit a small paragraph written about yourselves with a photo of yourselves. I mean, we know you on Facebook, so you don't have to include a photo of yourself. And then also make sure for that March 9th date that you set up a 1 to 2 minute speech that you're going to give in front of the entire club to figure out why you should be, basically just explain why you want to be in the leadership position, what you can bring to the role, and what experience you have. Basically try to win over different people and explain why you want to be leadership for the club. So now, after we've talked all logistics stuff, let's get into the Python workshop, and Sergio will take over from here.
Awesome. So if you guys are in like software field, I'm sure like you have heard of Reddit, or you know of Reddit, or you use Reddit actively. So we're gonna do a cool little tutorial, which is actually a pretty like very short amount of lines of code, but it's like does a really cool thing though. So we're gonna be using a wrapper for Reddit's actual API. So instead of like making HTTP requests to Reddit's API's endpoints and stuff like that, and if you don't know what that means, what I just said, don't worry about it. We're just going to be using a Python package that will do all that for you, and it makes it really, really simple to interact with Reddit. So if you have, so basically what you're going to need is Python installed on your computer, pip, which is a Python package manager. So if you've done any Node.js, if you're in software engineering, if you've done any Node.js, there's npm, which handles nodes packages. So pip is kind of a very similar thing for Python. And pra, which is the Python Reddit API wrapper, which you will install with pip because it's a package. So with macOS 10, it's super, super easy to install. If you don't have Homebrew installed, I would definitely recommend getting Homebrew installed on your Mac. So it's also a package manager, but for packages on your Mac, not like related to a programming language. So if you go to, and definitely like feel free to follow along and ask questions if you get stuck anywhere on the process. So if you go to brew.sh, you can literally just copy and paste this command and paste it at your terminal, and it's going to install Homebrew. So then you're going to want to say brew install Python. So Python is defaultly installed on OS 10, but this just installs it at a different location. And then also, I'm not sure the differences, but go ahead and install Python with brew. It's not going to harm your other installation. And when you do brew install Python, it'll also install pip for you. And then once all that is finished running, then you're just going to say pip install pra, which will install the Python Reddit API wrapper. So I'll go ahead and give you guys a couple minutes to get that situated. Is anyone doing this on Windows that is not ready? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new little Python file. So does anyone still want me to hold on until they get stuff installing, or am I good to go? All right, so basically, if you've never used Python before, it's definitely not a requirement because Python is an insanely simple syntax, kind of reads off like English, and no semicolons. So you're going to say import pra, which is the Python Reddit API wrapper that we just installed. And we're also going to import another package called URL lib. we're going to use URL-lib to download stuff from the internet, which you'll see in a second. So we're going to go ahead and say client equals so go ahead and type out this line of code. You're saying client equals pro.reddit and user agent. You can just give any string for your user agent. I guess Reddit's API requires some kind of user agent string to use it. But just like that, you have a little client object that you're going to use to interact with Reddit. And if you've never seen Python before, you don't need to declare your variable types. So you see I didn't say int or anything like that. So after that, we're going to say, let's go grab some submissions from a subreddit or something like that. So we're going to say submissions equals client.getSubreddit. So we're just going to get the post from a subreddit. Let's say we're going to go to our wallpapers. So type in wallpapers. And then we can either get the hot posts, which is the current post. If you just go to reddit.com/r/wallpapers, you're going to see the hot post. You can also get the top. You can get the new post. You can get the top for a specific timeline, like top for the month, for the week, all that kind of stuff. But we're just going to say get hot right now. So just get the hot post, and we're going to give it a limit of 10. Actually, that should be an integer, not a string. So we're just saying we're going to get the 10 hot posts from our wallpapers. So now this submissions object is essentially just a list of these posts. And these post objects have a bunch of different attributes, which we're going to mess with. So let's just iterate over that list. So let's say for submission in submissions. So Python's for each loops are pretty nice reading. So we're just iterating over that. We're going to have a submission object, and each submission object is each one in the list. So if you want to see all the attributes that are actually in this object, so for example, we're going to use submission.url. So that's the URL that was posted to that submission. But let's also, this is just for debugging purposes and just to see, let's print dir submission. This is just a built-in Python function that'll tell you all of the attributes of an object, so we can see what other kind of details we can get from the object. So go ahead and save that file, and we're just going to pop open the terminal. And yeah, go.
Is your name submission in that for loop just arbitrary?
Yeah, I can definitely just call this X.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Keep in mind your variable name should be meaningful.
Yeah, don't call it X. So let's go ahead to the terminal and to run a Python script. So if you notice, there's no main method if you've done Java or C++. Python's also a scripting language as well as an object-oriented programming language. Kind of embodies a lot of different programming paradigms. So this is essentially a little script that we're going to run. So let's just say all you have to do is type in Python and the name of your file. So this is python demo.py. And let's run that. And looks like I don't have pip installed on this. I don't have pra installed on this computer. So it says no module named pra. So let me just install pra really quick. Cool. Okay. So this is it looks like a lot of chunky data. That's just because we printed it 10 times because there was 10 submissions. But let's check out what's in each object. So
I'm going to zoom in.
Wait, can you move the terminal aside? I need to.
oh, the code. Yeah, definitely feel free to stop me and ask me if you have any questions, and I'll give you guys a little couple minutes to get caught up.
How many memes per second can I get out of this?
How many what?
Memes per second.
Memes per second. About over 9,000. Yeah, so basically at your terminal, you're just going to say pip install pra.
It's saying no distribution spam for the URL line for me when I do pip install.
Pip install pra you're doing?
I'm doing pip install URL line.
Oh, you don't need to install pip. You don't need to install URLlib with pip because URLlib is like comes in the standard like Python stuff.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
You know how like Java has a crap ton of standard stuff? Same thing.
Sweet. Alright, thank you.
Okay, so let's take a look at this terminal. So all the attributes and stuff from each submission object. So we have a bunch of like methods that we don't really care about, but let's look at, for example, add comment. So if we were authenticated, which it's actually really, really easy to authenticate with it with pra, we could actually add a comment to this thread. We can do a bunch of other stuff. We can get the author of this post. We can get the number of downvotes. We can get if it's a self post, get if it's over 18, I guess checking if it's NSFW. We can get the permalink of the post. We can get the subreddit that it's in. We can get the URL of the post, which is what we're going to fiddle around with. And we get a whole other bunch of attributes. So let's go back to the code. And I just commented out the dir thing because we don't really care about that. That was just for observation and for debugging. So if we just print the URL, we're going to see a bunch of imgur links, which that's what we want. We want the links to the images that are posted. So if we copy and paste one of those and we go on Google and go to that link, we're going to get a nice wallpaper that was posted. So the point of this little script that I'm making is we're going to get these top images from Reddit, and then we're going to save all these wallpapers to our computer. So essentially, like if you were to do this manually, you would have to like right-click on this, save image as, yada, yada, yada. But we're going to go ahead and do that all programmatically with Python. So we have all these URLs. Most of them are with imgur because that's what's most widely used. And most of them have file extensions at the end of the string, right? Like .jpeg. None of them have .png, but some of them could. This one does not. So if we take a look at this link, it's probably because it's an album. Or no, I guess they just didn't give the right link. But we don't want to use the links that don't have the file extensions at the end because then we can't right-click and save as and like do that programmatically. I mean, we could still do it, but it's not as simple. So we're going to go ahead and say, so this is some cool syntax. First, let's get the URL of the submission. So we're just going to say URL equals submission.url. That's going to be a string. And then we're going to say if URL dot ends with, also a built-in function in Python, we're saying if the string ends with a certain substring. So let's say if it ends with .jpeg or .png. Those are probably the most two kinds of common image files that we're going to find, right? So if URL ends with .jpeg or png, we're going to do something with it. And so check out how like cool and like readable Python syntax is. We're just literally saying what we want to do. So if the URL ends with JPEG or PNG, then we're going to go ahead and download that image. So I'm gonna give each URL like a file name to save as. So I'm just going to say file name. So basically what I want to do is just say like 1.jpg 2.jpg, 3.jpg, etc. for each image, because like they don't really have a name, right? So I just want to name them as which number they are, like in the list, right? So we don't, like normally if you're going to do for loops, you're going to, like in C++ or Java, you're going to say like for ints I equals 0, I is less than submission dot length, right? Something like that. And then we have the index that we're at. But right now, since we're just doing for submission in submissions, we don't have that index value. So we don't know if we're at the 0th position, at the first, second, third, right now, since we're just doing a simple for each loop. But I kind of want that because I want to name the images off of what position they are in the array. So I'm just going to add some more stuff to my for loop. So basically, I'm just going to say for index, comma submission. So now every iteration of the for loop, I'm going to have two variables that I can use, the submission object and the index. And I just need to do one more thing. I just need to say enumerate submissions. So this way I can do like a normal for loop and have the index and also get the object easily. Cool. So now I just want to name each file 0.jpg, 1.jpg, 2.jpg, etc., or if it's .png, we need to give the file name the appropriate file extension, because if I try to save a PNG as 1.jpg, it's not going to open because it's the inappropriate file name, and we can't open a JPEG if we think it's a PNG, you know? So let's say the file name is going to be the string of the index. So if you want to like cast something to a string in Python, all you have to do is wrap it in the string function, which is also a built-in function in Python. So we're getting the string value of the index, and we're going to concatenate that with the file extension, the actual file extension. So let's just add a little dot, and then we're going to say url.split. So we're splitting the URL at any period. So the URL is this imgur link, right? And there's definitely a couple of periods, but we want this, what's after this last period, right? So what split does, the split function, is it'll take this string and split it at every period. So we're going to get an array of each substring. So we're going to have this, and then here's a period, so we're going to split here. If you've never like used a split function on strings before, it's really handy to get a certain part of the string out that you want. Java also has something like this built in. So if we were to call split, we're essentially going to get an array of strings that's going to look like this. Everywhere there's a period, we're going to split that string and get that substring in this array. But we only care about this JPEG thing, right? So we're just going to get the last element. So in Python, in arrays, you can just call -1 to get the last element in the array. So normally you would say like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be 0, 1, 2, 3. We want the third one, but we don't really know how many substrings there's going to be in this array. So if we call -1, we're always going to get the last substring, and we always know that the URL is going to end with .jpg. So that should always work. So basically what this line is doing, we're saying 0 plus dot plus the file extension. So JPEG, PNG, whatever. So that's going to be our file name. And then we're just going to use this urllib library to go ahead and grab that image and save it to our computer. So we're going to say urllib.url retrieve. We're going to pass in the URL as the first parameter. So that's just the string of the URL, this imgur link. Then we're going to give it our file name that we want to save it to on our local machine. So we just have this file name string, and we're good. Takes in 2 parameters. So this URL retrieve function takes in 2 parameters, the URL of the object that you want to grab, so our imgur link, and the file name you want to save it as to your computer. And since I'm only giving it like 1.jpg, it's going to save that in the current directory where this Python file is located. I could give it like users/Sergio/home/ whatever, like a full absolute path to save it anywhere I want. We're just going to save it in this directory though. So yeah, that's a super easy like 1-line way to just download this image. And like the way I figure out how to do that is just so like literally like super easy to find like resources on Python and really easy to do stuff like in 1 line like that. So this looks pretty crazy, but this guy's doing this. He's saying, yeah, use URL lib, and you can do this in 1 line, downloading an image. So Python's really cool because you can do like really cool things in like such short amount of lines of code. So like this is like 19 lines, but that's with a ton of spaces and a ton of comments and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and run it. So you see now it's like taking longer to like print out these links. That's because like every single time I'm trying to download the image now, which takes a little bit of time, right? If you're dealing with the internet, the network, stuff's gonna take a little bit longer. So let's go check out my directory. If you want to, like, if you're in the terminal and you want to open a Finder window at that current directory, just type in open dot and you'll open a Finder window at your current directory. I literally just learned that like last week. So yeah, here are, yeah, you type in open dot and you can open a Finder window at the current directory that your terminal is at.
Oh, you can use ls.
ls?
No, but to open in Finder.
Open it in Finder. Because I want to actually look at the images. So yeah, these were all downloaded at 6:48 p.m., which is right now. And let's take a look. We got some nice wallpapers. So a cool extension that you could do with this is maybe run this script periodically on your computer, like every morning or something, and then set your wallpaper like it's like you can like set like an album of images to your wallpaper. So like every morning you'll have new images straight from our wallpapers. So yeah, that's about it for that little tutorial. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
So where did the images come from? Like,
What do you mean?
I know it comes from Reddit, but like, where? If that makes sense.
So the images are hosted on Umbr's server, and you pass in your computer the URL and the file name you want. So when you run the script, it automatically generates.
Is that what you mean? Like, are you asking like?
I'm like, what page on Reddit? Like,
Oh, wallpapers.
wallpapers.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's line, which line is it? Here, you pull up the code.
Yeah.
It's at 1 line that's submissions equals client.get subreddit wallpapers dot get
Yeah.
hot. It's literally getting the top 10 from that subreddit.
Alright.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just Google Praw, you can see all the other things like API calls you've made.
Yeah, hell yeah. So like if you go to Praw, it's like super easy to like even sign in like with your account. So that's how like basically all Reddit bots are made. Like if you guys are familiar with bots on Reddit, a lot of like they even have a little tutorial on how to write a Reddit bot. So they have a bunch of resources for getting started, and it's like super easy to log in. Literally all you have to do is call .login with a username and password, and then you can do stuff from there. So yeah, you had a question?
So what if I wanted to save the images using the submission title? How would I do that?
Let's do it. So let's see what each one has again. it's probably just going to be dot title. Do you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good idea. So let's just say file name is the string of the title plus dot and then plus the file type. So let's try that.
So when you have a numeric function, it will iterate over a list, but also give the index.
Cool. So now all these files are named what the post on Reddit's title actually was, which is pretty cool. Good suggestion. Anyone have any other questions? Yeah.
Why did you need to add enumerate?
Yeah, so normally, like, if you're, before I just had, right, before I just had for submission and submissions, which was giving me these submission objects, but previously over here, I had that index from the enumerate, right? That was giving me like the 0, 1, 2 of the for loop iteration. I mean, that's just how you have to, if you want to, you could do a for loop like this. We could change this for loop to say for I in range submissions yeah. We could change this for loop to say for I in range of the length of submissions. So this length function is also built in Python. You can just wrap it around any list or string or anything to get the length of that array. So this is just saying we're going to loop I from the 0 to the length of submissions. So we could do it like that, and then we can just say submission equals submissions I, and then we can do it like that. But since I had a for each loop before, and I just want to get the index, that's just the way to get the index if you want to have like both of those in the same line. So yeah, you can do it either way. This way works the exact same way.
So how did you find some other cool Python APIs? Like you just Google cool Python APIs?
Yeah, honestly, basically like think of like any like site or tool or anything you want to use, like Twitter or anything, or Google Maps probably has one.
And you can just make some cool scripts.
Yeah, and like since Python, like it's really like the language is like very simple and it's easy to do things like that. So you can just, and like so a lot of people will make these wrappers for the APIs. So this is like a Python client library for Google Maps API, and there's probably tons more for any kind of service. Since Python is like really, really popular, basically for any service out there, there's definitely going to be a wrapper in Python. Let's check out Spotify actually. If you want to like do something with music or something cool like that, yeah, I think there's one here called Spotify, aptly named. So here are wrappers, and here's the Python one. And yeah, like it's really common for people to like create wrappers for APIs. Like as you see, there's one for like Android and Node.js and Ruby and Go and JavaScript and stuff like that. It just makes it much more easier to like use the services API. Like just how we could just like have this object and a submission object and all that stuff. So yeah, there's this one called Spotify, which looks pretty cool. Yeah. So just think of like literally any kind of like service you want to interact with. There's definitely probably a Python wrapper for it. Yeah.
Check game if you're interested in making like little video games.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Any other questions or suggestions if you have any?
So
Yeah.
if you want to do this in Python 3, what would you have to do differently?
If what was that?
If you want to do this in Python 3 instead of 2.7,
Mm-hmm.
what would you have to do differently?
I don't know. Like you can Google Python 2.7 to 3 converter, and I think they have like one built in. Yeah, so this code was in Python 2.7, which is pretty irrelevant. Like the languages are, there's just like minor changes in the syntax. But yeah, there's things to convert from 2 to 3 and stuff like that. And I think this is on the official Python wiki. And they just talk about the differences and stuff like that. But yeah, don't worry about that if like you're like new to Python. It doesn't really matter which version you use, as long as you're learning. So just finally, upcoming, our next meeting / workshop is the 24th, and it's going to be a really cool HTML5 JavaScript game tutorial. So with this library called phaser.io, our other officer, John, who is not here, he's going to be doing that tutorial, I believe, and that's going to be really awesome. He actually, I'm pretty sure he used that library for his hackathon project at SwampHacks, which was really cool. I was able to see it. He made a really awesome game. So definitely don't miss that. And then on March 9th, we're going to have a Socket.io tutorial. So if you guys have ever heard of WebSockets, maybe you have, maybe you have not. It kind of like enables like real-time communication. If you're real-time bidirectional event-based communication, that kind of sounds like mumbo jumbo, but basically it allows you to do like real-time connection over the internet like really, really easily. So think an IM, like an instant messaging application. So you could write an instant messaging application in Socket.io like in like the same amount of lines I just wrote that Python script in. So like you can even have like read receipts and like little typing icon and stuff like that with this Socket.io library. So you can even like use it for games too if you want to make a real-time multiplayer game, or like lightweight games. You don't want to get anything too crazy. But yeah, it's a really cool library to add that real-time effect to like your web apps and stuff like that. And also on that day is when we're going to have the elections after the Socket.io tutorial. So definitely if you're interested in running for a position, definitely don't miss out on that. Like we said before, you're going to need to have that stuff submitted by March 1st. And we'll definitely send out emails and post on the Facebook event about that. Just want to see, like, did everyone who got like that email yesterday that I sent out last night? All right, cool. If you're not on the email list and you want to get added, definitely come up to me after the meeting. We just made that email list, and it's like another method of communication other than the Facebook group and our lacking website at the moment. But yeah, and yeah, we're gonna have 2 more other meetings after that, which do not have any plans yet. But yeah, do you guys have any suggestions of anything that you're interested or want to learn or anything for upcoming tutorials and workshops and stuff like that? Any ideas? If not, that's totally cool. We'll just show you cool stuff.
Is like Unity possible at all to do a tutorial with you guys? Or, cause like, I don't know, that just seems like a really cool game. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I personally have never worked with Unity, but like I'm super interested in learning it.
yeah.
I'll definitely like notate that down and like look for someone who has a lot of experience that could like do that, because that'd be a really awesome idea.
Yeah, that'd be. And Amazon just released like their game engine. That's.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, like something like that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like the phaser thing is like a lightweight kind of game, but you can still make like really cool stuff with it, honestly. But yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. If you guys have any suggestions, thanks so much for coming, guys. And if you want to get added to the email list and you're not, come up to me after the meeting.